Morning, everybody. First of all, it is great to be here at, for me, what is my first ScanSource event, and I can't think of a better way to do it than to help kick off OneCom. You know, last night I had a tremendous time just chatting with a lot of old friends, meeting some new ones, and it's very clear to see there's a lot of history in this room. You know, when Mike showed that graph up there showing the whole timeline of the ScanSource evolution, and Avaya really right there from the beginning. You know, our relationship goes back 16 plus years. And there's a lot of history. There's a lot of family, I think, in the room as well as a result of all that time together. But the other thing that's really important to also note is what we've really done together as an industry. And I think it's important to note that we have collectively not just changed the way customers communicate and collaborate with each other, we've grown our businesses, but more importantly, collectively, all of the people in this room, we have built an industry that we can all feel very proud of, and one that today continues to prosper. So I really like to focus a lot on celebrating in the past, and I think it's important to recognize where we come from. And collectively, what I like to refer to as the winning combination, ScanSource, the partners in this room, and Avaya, we have been successful for now a very long stretch. In fact, we have over 300,000 customers on a global basis. 95% of the Fortune 500 runs on Avaya. We have 9 out of the top 10 airlines, 9 out of the top 10 financial institutions, 9 out of the top 10 luxury hotels, and 8 out of the top global auto manufacturers. We've become and are still today the leaders in contact center and unified communications. And again, something I feel that we should feel very proud of. But another area that I think we've done a tremendous job in, and that's servicing the hundreds of thousands of mid-market customers that are using our technology each and every day to change the way that they do business. Now, while I really love the past, and I'm sure all of you do as well, we also have to recognize that the times are changing. We've been through some challenging times in the enterprise market, customers sweating their assets, trying to drive every last dollar of value, and not investing as much, perhaps, as they have in the past. But there are other dynamics changing as well. Customers today are different decision makers and different buying centers than what we've had before. It's the IT department, it's the line of business, and it's the CFO making a lot of decisions. And quite frankly, we haven't, as organizations, worked as much with those people as we have in the past. There's no customer conversation that I have today that doesn't bring up alternatives for how they can deploy these infrastructures. OpEx is in every conversation. How can I simply pay for this service as opposed to having to own the capital expenditure of rolling it out? Software has become more dominant in our industry. In fact, if we look at the value in this entire ecosystem in this industry we've built, it's all moved as this industry is defragmented from the hardware platforms that sat in the telecoms cabinets, and it's moved into the software suite. So as a result, today, Avaya has 75% of its business now derived from software and the services to support those installations. And that trend is going to continue. Our customers have demanded that we virtualize our applications because they run inside of their data centers to reduce cost and reduce complexity. We also recognize that cloud is very important, not just from an OpEx perspective, but from one of being able to integrate in multiple efforts. And I think these types of trends are going to continue. We're going to see this acceleration of change. In fact, some of the latest data I've seen is that most CIOs are now going to reinvest back in their businesses this year in telecommunications and collaboration infrastructure. And that's good news for us. But we have to be able to adapt to those changing times and bring solutions to the market like we've done before. So I think the winning combination we've had collectively here together, it's survived the past very well, but I also think it's putting us into a leadership position for the future. Now, talking a little bit about the future, I just came from our International Avaya Users Group, which is a large consortium of Avaya customers that gets together on an annual basis. And I saw the most change in our customer base than we've seen in a long time. In fact, 40% of the attendees were new. A lot of them came from those different buying areas and those different decision-making areas that I talked about earlier. And they're looking for new solutions and they're looking for new alternatives. We've been on an amazing transformation journey for the past 5 years, and for the partners of Avaya in the room, you'll have experienced that. You've seen a lot of change in management, you've seen us restructure, but it's all to make us a healthier Avaya to help your businesses become healthier and grow and prosper more. We had to make investments in new technologies. We had to make improvements in go-to-market, and I'm very proud to say that I believe we've accomplished that, and it's now time to take capture of those investments and to turn that into growth for both of our businesses. Now, during these changing times, we also have to look at where the successes are. And I think there's one specific customer that I'd like to spend a few minutes talking about that I think best exemplifies the new Avaya, what we've collectively been able to do from a technology perspective, but also from a delivery perspective. So we won this deal actually a couple of years ago, but just got to roll it out earlier in 2014. So this customer that we worked with was putting up a brand new operation. They were going to have 40,000 individual users from the first moment of operation. They were going to have over 120,000 devices that they were going to be using. And most of them were going to be BYOD, and they were going to be connected to the network wirelessly. The amount of time we had to deploy this network was very short. In fact, most of them we had less than a week in major areas, and in fact, the whole data center had to go in under a week. And most importantly, we had to keep this network up and running for 30 days nonstop. We had no maintenance time to make any modifications. Everything had to be done on the fly. And we had to do all of this with 4 technicians. Quite an accomplishment, quite a challenge. But we stood up to the challenge and we took it on with a faith that we could get the job done. And we were very proud for Avaya and our business partner to announce that we were successfully delivering the 2014 Winter Olympics at Sochi, Russia. Thank you. Thanks. So I had the privilege of witnessing the event in Sochi. We had quite a number of our customers and partners attend. It was quite an amazing experience. A lot of different opinions about how the whole event was going to work out from the US press, but when you got there, it was a magnificent event. And it was one that I think Avaya and our partner community can both be very proud of. But beyond just being proud of it, we put a stake in the ground in terms of Avaya's capability to deliver the most resilient networks in the most cost-effective fashions of any other vendor out there. So a couple of other data points here that I think I want to mention. We had also the opportunity of delivering the infrastructure for the Vancouver Olympics just 4 years prior. And some very interesting data points in contrast between those two experiences. So again, 4 years passed. You'd think technology wouldn't change all that much, but it was a significant difference. In fact, we were able to deliver what was essentially an equal-sized network for 3 times less cost and for 5 times less operating cost than just that network that we put in 4 years before. And not only did we exceed the 5 nines of reliability that we delivered in Vancouver, but we hit 6 nines of reliability in Sochi. Not a single SEV1 outage, and we're asked multiple times during the event to deploy new additional security fabrics into places that were considered to be very critical as that event rolled out. And we did that on the fly. So you ask yourselves, well, how did that happen? And the answer, it's simple. And it's simple because Avaya's Fabric Connect is simple. We are changing the game in terms of how large, complex networks need to be deployed. Now, I've an engineering background. I was a system engineer for a long time, and whether it's the privilege or the unfortunate elements of it, but I got to deal with this industry over 20 years ago when we were rolling out IP networks and using TCP/IP as the main foundation for those communications. And if you go back to those times, really understanding how those networks worked, you can truly understand where our differentiation is. And I'll talk about that a little bit more as we expand on our networking products. But what was also interesting about this Olympics is we had the ability to actually monitor and manage all of the various applications that were using that network during the Olympics. And the 2 most popular ones came as quite a surprise. You know, people would have thought, well, it would have been Twitter or Facebook, but it was actually Dropbox and iCloud from Apple. And the main reason is before people got there, they took their smartphones and their PDAs or pads, and they configured them to download all the photos that they would take into the cloud automatically. So while all these people are at these events clicking away their pictures, they're inundating the network with 2 to 3 meg photos that are getting uploaded to the cloud. And that's the reality that CIOs and our customers are facing today. The network usage is going to be unpredictable. How it will get used on any one day, what it will be called upon to deliver will all be changing. And I think that's an important part we have to factor in as we look to design new networks. So for the partners who have been working with Avaya, in some cases for 16 plus years, and for those who we'd like to work with, I really like to boil our value proposition down into these 3 items. First of all, fit for purpose. And this simply means doing the job in the most simplest fashion, because when you can make something simple, ultimately it's going to work better. Today, over 50% of the problems we have in our unified communication and contact center environments is caused because of the underlying network vendor who's not based on Avaya. And that's something that we'll always strive to do, but we'll also do it as a company. We want to remain singularly focused on the unified communications and contact center spaces, helping enterprises communicate and collaborate more effectively, and the underlying architectures to support that. And that's our business, and we're going to be committed to being experts in that and only in that area. And that's an important commitment to our partner community, that we will not lose focus. Innovation by listening to our customers, and this is an important one as well. We will respond to what our customers are asking us for. They asked for virtualized applications so that they could move this technology that they've leveraged for years into their modern data center infrastructures, and we delivered. They asked for the ability to deliver private clouds and to move their CapEx investments to OpEx, and we delivered on that. And in fact, today, the majority of our largest opportunities are now in the OpEx area and in our Avaya private cloud offerings. And then finally, and I think the one perhaps for me that's the most important, is this one about being open and unifying. There are several vendors today competing for both partner as well as customer mindshare when it comes to collaboration needs. But I think Avaya is the unique vendor that wants to deliver that in an open environment and not through a proprietary stack. And we've got proof points that demonstrate how we can do that. I think if we look back to the early days of web services and what WebLogic and what WebSphere did in terms of open and unifying that market, that is Avaya's R&D objective, and that's our goal as a company. Today, we already work with several vendors like Microsoft Lync, like Google, but we also have a very rich set of Avaya DevConnect partners. In fact, over 400 different applications that you can use to build the overall solution set for your customers, driving more profitability, more margin for you, and more top-line revenue, but most importantly, solving more of your customers' problems. I'm not sure how many people had an opportunity yesterday to go attend the vendor fair and see some of the technology we have there, but take a close look at the collaboration environment. It is that middleware. It is the WebSphere and the WebLogic of the communication and collaboration industry, and it's going to be a game changer like our networking products are. Now, I want to talk about two specific opportunities that I think we could mutually go out and grow our markets together, grow our top line, grow our profitability. And the first one is really around what I call guaranteed performance. So I want to go back to Sochi for a minute. The Avaya Fabric Connect model, I think, is groundbreaking. It is revolutionary in terms of how simple it is, and yet how it can tackle very complex enterprise-class networking problems. You heard me mention, again, that we moved from 5 nines to 6 nines availability while reducing cost by 3-fold and operating cost by 5-fold. And again, we did that because of simplicity. As I mentioned earlier, I go back to the days when TCP/IP was there, and if we remember why that protocol was used so heavily and invented and still exists today, was primarily because of the high cost of networking bandwidth. It was outrageously expensive. So we had to create protocols as an industry that protected the network and, quite frankly, protected our budgets from those applications. Well, those times have changed. Those applications are now required to use that bandwidth, and bandwidth has become a lot less, significantly less expensive. So the applications we use are now actually being throttled back by the very protocol that saved us money before. So at Avaya, we've taken a new and an innovative approach. We've gone back to simplicity, back to layer 2, gone back to a technology called shortest path bridging to facilitate the most easy to use, easy to deploy, and easy to manage networking capabilities. When we look at the Sochi experience, again, via Vancouver, we were able to do in 200 lines of code what took 13,000 lines of code in the previous network design. With each and incremental line of code, there's a probability of error, that someone, a human being somewhere, is going to make a mistake and take a network down. We are able to add new capabilities in the matter of minutes. In fact, bring on whole new security zones in 10 minutes versus the 2 days that it took prior. So I believe that our Fabric Connect products are groundbreaking. They're revolutionary, and they will change the way enterprise network. But we can't get that message out there without you, our partners, to help us do that. Let's start with our own customers. Let's start with the successes we have, and let's build on them and make sure we're leveraging them with new opportunities. The second area I'd like to talk about is, let's see, it's going to click. There we go. Flexibility. Now, I'm not sure how many people here are snowboarders. I personally tried it myself several years ago, and after some extremely sore wrists and some bruises on the backside, decided to give it up altogether. But it's interesting, at the Olympics, there are actually 5 different snowboarding events. And just think how far this has come in only a few short Olympics. At the end of the day, they're all really the same event. You slap a big board to your feet, you start at the top of the hill, you go down some white stuff, and the person who finishes first or with the most points typically wins. Well, I think our IP Office solution is a lot like this to a certain degree. First of all, I think it is by far and away the most flexible, feature-rich, and scalable solution in the market today. It already scales to 2,000 users, and it's cost-effective all the way down to 10, and we're going to continue to grow that. In fact, the next release will go all the way up to 2,500 users. It will use 3 to 9 times fewer servers than the competitors, and we can install a 2,000 user environment in less than an hour. 32% lower TCO than one of our other competitors. But I think by far and away, the most impressive thing is about its flexibility. Customers want choice, and they want flexible deployment options today to roll out and manage their technology. With the complete solution, which has integrated voice, video, collaboration, and we've now recently added contact center, which we're also demonstrating in the vendor fair, it's a very feature-rich set. But from a deployment perspective, this is where I think its real power is. It can be deployed as an appliance if that's what the customer wants, and that may make sense for some implementations. It can be deployed as server only on the customer's own server, or with the virtualized OVA installed inside of their virtualized data center. And now I think with the exciting news that obviously we heard this morning around the Avaya IP Office cloud offering through ScanSource, I think we've got a winner here. So with Rich and our team, we've been working very closely with Avaya West, and I think we're going to break ground here in terms of a new model. A lot of vendors are going to have their cloud offerings that they'll build, manage, operate on their own, and then have you resell them as agents. We want to have you participate in that ecosystem and enjoy more of those profit margins. And I think by working with our business partner community, by providing you with the core ingredients, our virtualized software, we can create a lot of iterations of this. Well, what this also means for the customer, I think, is very important, because we're not going to force them down a one-size-fits-all. You can do it any way you want as long as you do it the way we're going to suggest. In fact, if we could have a customer who wanted all 5 of those different deployment models, we could support that. They could have very large virtualized environments in their own data center, but use cloud to hit some of the remote areas where they simply can't support them cost effectively. So I think this is an opportunity with IP Office, because of its flexibility, because of its feature richness, that we can go and take dominant market share in the mid-market. We've been committed to this market for a long time and will continue to be committed here and see it as one of our fastest growing opportunities. So I talked again about our long history together, and I'm personally very proud of that, even having been at Avaya for a very short period of time, and I know you are, again, for helping us all collectively build an industry. But I think really things can only get better from this point. We continue to stay committed and focused on channels. It's my priority to make it easier to do business with us, but also to ensure that we continue to hold the prize for the highest margins in this industry, in the communications and collaboration space. If I can continue to deliver that promise to you, you'll continue to be partners with me. We'll continue to bring out the solutions that we need to help you differentiate yourselves in the marketplace, and again, to drive customer value and to drive customer differentiation. Whether it be the new networking products that I just talked about, or IP Office, or the multitude of other investments we've made and products we've delivered, including, again, the cloud service through ScanSource. These are all opportunities for us to go partner and win together. I want to build on the past, but as we started off in the beginning, I think we have the winning combination between ScanSource, the partners here, and Avaya to take this market by storm and make the next 16 years ours. So thank you very much for your partnership and for your working together. Thank you very much.